Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of Two of Angling here. Much appreciated you guys taking some time to check the video out and just out here in the yard watching the chickens here. Kim got 8 chickens a couple weeks ago. She wanted to have some eggs, so we got a chicken coop set back up there and going to be having some eggs before too much longer. So anyway, just wanted to do today's video. And you know, if you guys follow the channel a lot, you know we do a lot of bait modification, bait tips, colors, that type of stuff. But the important videos is the ones I'm going to do today, and that's the one more on understanding bass behavior and the movements and that type of stuff. That's the thing that you really need to spend your time focusing in on. And the topic I want to talk today about is why a lot of people struggle to find bass and why you have a hard time catching fish sometimes. Guys, first of all, don't feel bad about it. Everybody does. I don't care if you're a top pro, whatever. You go through periods where sometimes you just can't catch them. It's just so tough to get bit. And bass fishing is a tough sport. Don't kid yourself. I mean, unless you fish someplace that's just loaded with fish, if you fish public bodies of water a lot, it's not easy. In fact, you're going to fail more than you're successful. So I wanted to give you guys some tips and advice on sort of how to help you with that a little bit, and maybe have a little bit more consistency, because a lot of people just struggle with it, especially if you're getting started out. I think one of the first things you have to realize is that there's a tremendous amount of access to information out there that you can build a foundation with. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube channels on bass fishing, you know, watching tournaments, that type of stuff. It's easy to get the fundamentals down. And sorry about the car noises here. But beyond that, you can only do so much with watching videos. You have to get out on the water yourself, and you have to see it in real time in real life situations. And I think one of the first things that you have to learn in bass fishing is you have to be able to identify the potential that an area has to produce fish. Now, a lot of people, when they're getting started out in fishing, or they're decent, good fishermen, even pros sometimes, they tend to overestimate an area, or they tend to underestimate an area based upon how it's laid out. So I think one of the most important things you have to do is to get a grasp of how good of a place that you're in. Now, a lot of this, and how you do this, a lot of it is based upon the time of year, because you need to put yourself in the best water. And normally what you have is based upon times of the year. Certain parts of the lake are better than others. For example, when the water's cold, everybody knows that normally the clear water is a little bit better, and that's usually found on the lower end of the lake. A lot of guys know in the late summer and the fall time of the year, excuse me, bass are shallow, and you can catch them shallow around cover, and normally you want to find some stained water, and that could be in the upper river portions or the creeks. And then other times of the year, like in the summertime, they tend to get out on points. So that can be all over the lake, and it could be mid-lake, lower lake, whatever. But spend some time putting yourself where you know that there's a population of fish at. And the way that you can do this, if you're not familiar with the lake, is identify a couple of the major creeks on the lake and make those creeks your lake, because there's always a population of bass living in major creeks all year long. So that's the first thing you can do. The second thing you can do is try to determine how much potential that your area or your technique has. For example, you go into a creek and you catch a nice fish on a football head jig on a secondary creek point in 10 foot of water. Now, if there's 50 other points in that creek that are similar to that, there's a good chance that you can duplicate that and, you know, catch a lot of fish. But if there's only maybe 2 or 3 points in that creek that look like that, there's also a good chance that was maybe the only fish that you're going to catch. The same thing with a boat dock. I mean, if you catch one off a boat dock and you've got, you know, 50 other docks in the creek, there's a good chance you can duplicate that. But if you've got only 2 or 3 docks, there's a good chance that that's not going to hold up. It's the same with any type of piece of cover. In order for areas to be good and for you to catch fish, you have to have enough of the right type of cover to duplicate how you caught a fish. So pay attention to that. And sometimes you can run a pattern. Sometimes you can, if you're catching them on docks or points or whatever, you can run around the lake to do that. But I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make also with that is they try to cover too much of the lake. Normally you're going to find in bass fishing that patterns do not work as well as areas do. Normally there's certain areas of the lake and they're usually maybe like a 3 to 5 mile section that are simply better than others. And that can be because of the water clarity, the type of cover, and that type of thing. Next thing that we'll talk about is your bait selection. There's certain baits that are going to be more productive than others. If you're fishing baits like moving baits, swim baits and that type of stuff, bigger swim baits, spinner baits, you have a lot better chance for that to be inconsistent, because the bass have to be in a pretty aggressive mood normally to hit a moving bait. One of the things you're going to find out that will improve your consistency in bass fishing is if you fish slow baits more. If you fish shaky heads, drop shots, jigs, Texas rig worms, wacky rigs, Carolina rigs, football head jigs, those baits that are on the bottom tend to produce fish under a lot wider range of conditions as far as weather conditions and that type of stuff. So your bait selection can have a big part of it. But anyway, we'll talk about this more. Elijah just come over here to play with the chickens, so this is going to be interrupted. Just remember that, guys. Try to correctly assess or correctly analyze how much potential your area has or doesn't have. Stay with the slow baits. Try to duplicate multiple type of cover, and you're going to have a lot more consistency with that. So hope that helps out, guys. We'll do some more on this topic a little bit later. I'm gonna get, what's the matter here? What's the matter? Okay, I got to put this fire out. We'll talk later, guys.